the 16th of June 1944, at 7:25 p.m., the 14-year-old George Junior Stinney Jr. is escorted to the death chamber. In 5 minutes, he will be executed by the electric chair. On the 27th of March, he was found guilty of first-degree murder, by an all-white jury of course. The victims were the 11-year-old Betty June Binnicker and the 7-year-old Mary Emma Thames. On the 23rd of March, they were both found dead in a ditch in Alculu, Clarendon County, South Carolina. Now it's 7:26 p.m. He is currently getting checked by a doctor. The last 81 days he spent waiting for this moment. During his confinement, he had no chance to reach out to his family or an attorney. He hears the clock ticking. Every second from now on is a significant part of the time he has left to live. He tries to slow the time down, tries to experience every second and every breath. He looks around. He looks at the bright white lights above his head, the white tiles on the walls. He closes his eyes and tries to calm down. Now it's 7:31 p.m. George Junior Stinney Jr. is dead. A doctor checks his pulse. He nods to the 2 officers nearby. They put a towel on his face and bring him to the prison's mortuary. It's 2004. This year, the Northeastern University School of Law re-examined the case. They found plenty of new evidence that pointed to Stinney not being guilty, such as eyewitnesses saying that there wasn't much blood in the ditch, suggesting that they may have been killed elsewhere and moved. All this evidence has been ignored in 1944, despite everything pointing away from Stinney being guilty. And finally, in 2014, a circuit court vacated Stinney's conviction, ruling that he had not received a fair trial, as he was not effectively defended and his Sixth Amendment right had been violated. Now, what that means is that Stinney's convictions have all been overturned, and that the United States of America officially admitted that they killed an innocent 14-year-old boy. Now, this video isn't called The Story of Junior Stinney. So you might think, why should the case of one African-American boy who had been convicted by an all-white jury in 1944 America be representative for the death penalty as a whole? And you would be making a good point. It is true that the case took place some 70 years ago, and that it would be an understatement to say some things have changed since then. But what if I told you that since then there have been over 40 cases of people being wrongfully convicted of murder, and that about 10 of them either died in prison or were executed. The last wrongful execution happened in 1991. Again, all of these 40 people were innocent, and the numbers I just told you are from the US only. Now, originally we wanted to make a video about this case, but during our research we found so much more we would like to tell you.
Since 1977, 1,512 people have been executed in the USA, 1/3 of them in Texas. 1,496 of them were male and 16 of them were female. Out of the 54 US states, 29 still use the death penalty and 21 don't. 4 states, however, use the so-called gubernatorial moratoria system, where the death penalty normally is not used, but in specific cases the governor can use his authority to commute death sentences. On the graph you can see that the number of death sentences in the US in 2017 reached the lowest point since 1991. With more than half of all US states using the death penalty, one would think that the public opinion is at least mostly positive. But is it really? What you just saw is only a small part of the demonstrations against the death penalty that happened in the last few years. Even though many politicians, including Donald Trump, are pro-death sentence, the overall public opinion is against the death penalty. In a study in which people were asked about the death penalty, 60% of the people asked said that they were against the death penalty, while only 36% thought that the death penalty would be more effective.
A 2010 study found that between 1989 and 1997 the cost for one federal death sentence was $269,193. Between 1998 and 2004 it grew to $620,932. $600,000 for killing someone. Of course, the federal death sentence isn't used as often, but currently 30 people are on federal death row, and all of them will be executed. Now the thing is that the federal death sentence that I just told you about is actually for many states the much cheaper version. For instance, California uses the gubernatorial moratoria system. The state didn't execute anybody since 2006, but the state is paying $137 million a year to keep their executive branch running. Without the death penalty, it would cost them $11.5 million. And this isn't just California. In Oklahoma, a state that uses the normal death penalty, a death penalty case cost the state around 3 times more than a normal case. In Kansas, the death penalty case cost the state on average $1.26 million. A normal one costs $740,000. But in my opinion, the most shocking case is Pennsylvania. The state paid about $350 million for the death penalty in a period where they carried out, and now hold on to your seats, 3 executions. Now why is the death penalty so expensive? Now first of all, a death sentence is much more complex for the judge than a normal sentence, because the case is revisited multiple times, and also the average time span between sentencing and the execution is 21 years. And many specialists, such as psychologists and anesthetists, are needed during this time. Also, the defense can always claim the right on another psychiatric examination, which can also take some time. It has to be paid by the state and can, of course, delay the execution. Now, executions may cost much, but this is still a small price to pay considering the gruesome things that these people did. It's just the price you pay for those people to get what they deserve, but still execute them in a humane manner. Now, humane is a big word, and it's definitely not the first thing that comes into my mind when I think about people being executed, but at least one could say that the way people are being executed is the most humane way to do it. This may be right in theory, but in reality, 3.15% of all US executions since 1890 went wrong. 3.15% might not sound that much, but if you take it into consideration that we're talking about 8,776 executions since 1890, we're coming out at 276 botched executions, meaning executions that were cancelled due to the prisoner's suffering.
Now this is just our opinion, but a system with such big flaws should not be used in these modern times. Yes, only 3.15% of all executions fail, but these 276 people all suffer physically under the incompetence of their state and their inability to perform a clean and flawless execution. Our opinion is just that these 276 botched executions were 276 too many, and no one, regardless of their action, should be suffering because of an execution. Also, the executions and their trials are incredibly expensive, Some states pay hundreds of millions of dollars a year just for executions. Many US states have serious problems with their educational funding, just to name one place where the money would be needed. Our opinion is that the death penalty isn't a good way of punishing people for their actions. It just seems like a relic from a much more primitive time. We just feel like the murder of people in the name of justice has no place in modern society and is in no way humane.